Hey, campfire crew. Let's get it on.
That's Satan's power.
It has nothing to do with Satan, Mama. It's me. Me.
Stalker from Jail, submitted by Chris K. I'm a 31-year-old female, and this story took place back in 2017 while I was pregnant with my first child. My ex, who was also my oldest son's father, was in the jail for the majority of my pregnancy. I'll call him A. Me and A were together about 2 years before I got pregnant. He struggled with substance abuse, which ended up putting him in rehab or jail quite a few times. This is about a time when he was in jail, and I was about 5 or 6 months pregnant. I would go to the jail regularly to visit him, and we talked on the phone all the time. I sent him letters and pictures and all of that as well. Well, I ended up getting a letter in the mail from the jail one day, but it was not from A. It was from another inmate who was in jail with him. I'll call him B. B sent me a letter stating that A had traded him my pictures and address for something apparently, and when B supposedly saw my pictures, it was love at first sight for him. The letter talked about how I was made for him, and we were meant to be together, and that when he got out of jail, he was going to come for me. This was a 3-page letter, front and back. I just summarized the main thing that the letter was talking about. So, terrified me, I went and looked him up to see who he was and what his charges were. His charges were stalking, assault and battery, and felonious assault with a deadly weapon against his ex-girlfriend. So now I was even more terrified. I mean, not only did I have myself to worry about, but I had my unborn baby to worry about too. After I received this letter, I got a Facebook message from B's supposed cousin. The cousin was basically telling me that he was told to give me money and take care of me until B got out of jail. I told the cousin that I wasn't interested and to tell B to leave me alone. Then the cousin started telling me how beautiful I was and how I should meet with him and just all this creepy stuff. I've never blocked anyone so fast in my life. To bring this story to a close, B's release date has since passed and he has not come for me or even contacted me in any way. I did ask A about all of this and he denied knowing anything about it. Well, I'm now married to someone else and have 2 kids. I'm incredibly happy and thankful this story didn't have a bad ending. Creeper Van in the Woods by Azura Prince. Back when I was around 11 or 12 years old, I lived in Royal Canada on a reservation. We moved to the more isolated part of town when I was about 10, and maybe a year and a half had gone by since we had moved into that small cabin. Around September of 2011, we had a massive flood. A dam blocked the river and it changed course through the small town as it was U-shaped. All the water came crashing towards the middle of the U. The reason that I mention this is because that flood took out our driveway to our old cabin. Around a month or so went by, and we ended up finding an old dugout dirt road leading up to the cabin. The flood had opened the path up, and we cleared the rest. During our time clearing that dirt road, we always felt like someone was watching us. Fast forward a few months, and the town was kind of normal again. Me, being a young child, I loved to explore the outdoors and just being one with nature. Well, one day, as I was out exploring, I decided to take a walk down that dirt road that led up to the cabin. Well, I always noticed a short white bus kind of tucked way back on the side of the road, and we never bothered with it. It was kind of expensive to tow out. But it was strange being so far into the woods. Why would there be an old bus back there? Mind you, I had seen some strange things like cars in the middle of the forest where they shouldn't be. But back to me walking down our dirt road. I decided to pry open that white bus's door, and succeeded in getting it open. It was weird in there. No strange smell,
It just smelled old and abandoned. It had wooden interior for walls with bright white exterior paint, and I noticed it was filled with big black garbage bags. I thought that was strange, and of course curiosity got the best of me. I was 11. I opened a few of the bags, and they were filled with shoes. Old shoes, newer shoes, even vintage shoes not from my era. That's when I looked up and noticed on the walls there was nothing but pictures of women from the Victorian era, celebrities I'd seen on TV. I thought it was weird and looked back down at the shoes, and I noticed each shoe I grabbed was left in a short chunk heel women's shoe. That familiar feeling of someone watching began to rush over me, and as I decided to step off the bus, far off to my left I heard a, "Hey!" When I say I booked it to the right, as that was the direction home, I never ran so fast. Before that flood, none of us knew that bus was back there. For some reason I thought maybe I'd found a serial killer's stash or something.
The Boy on the Street, submitted by Liam. My name is Liam, and this happened to me this past spring during my sophomore year of college. I worked evenings at a supermarket about a mile from my campus because it fit around my class schedule. Most nights I stocked shelves until closing, straightening out the aisles and helping clean up before locking the doors around 11. I never minded the walk back to my dorm. The streets were usually quiet, and after spending hours under fluorescent lights listening to beeping registers and shopping carts rattling around, the cool night air was actually relaxing. I'd throw in my earbuds, cut through a handful of intersections, and be back on campus in 15 or 20 minutes. One Friday night, just after leaving work, my parents called. I almost let it go to voicemail because I already knew what it was about, and I was planning to go out with my friends that night. I didn't want to be bogged down with what I knew they were going to talk to me about. They'd been trying to convince me to go on a 2-week family trip that summer, but I wanted to stay on campus and pick up extra shifts and some extra credits. Money was tight, and I didn't want to lose hours at work by wasting time going home and getting another job there. Plus, I could keep going to school. Well, they didn't see it that way. Before I even crossed the first intersection, they were telling me I was making a mistake and that I'd regret missing the vacation. I tried explaining myself, but they kept pushing until I finally lost my temper. Standing at an empty crosswalk, I shouted, "Why don't you both just get off my effing back already?" And I stabbed the button to end the call. The silence afterward felt heavier than it should have. There wasn't a single car on the road, just the distant hum of traffic somewhere across town. And that's when I noticed something standing on the opposite sidewalk. At first, I thought it was a little kid waiting to cross, which immediately struck me as strange because it was close to 11:30. No kids should be out that late by themselves. The figure looked small, maybe 12 years old, and was wearing a hooded sweatshirt, shorts, and sneakers. I started across when the light changed, and the boy stepped off the curb at the exact same time I did. Halfway across, I slowed up, and so did he. I stopped completely, and so did he, freezing in the middle of the street as if someone had pressed pause. My stomach tightened up, and I took 3 quick steps, and the boy matched them perfectly, keeping the same distance between us. I told myself it had to be a coincidence, but the feeling crawling across the back of my neck said otherwise. I pulled out my phone to call someone, maybe campus security, but the screen stayed black. My battery had died right after the argument with my parents. I hit the power button over and over anyway, and I was walking faster now, trying not to look back. The sidewalks were completely empty, and every storefront around me was dark. That's when I heard sneakers slapping against the pavement behind me. I glanced over my shoulder and saw the boy crossing directly towards me instead of continuing straight. The moment our eyes met, he broke into a full-on run. I did the same thing without thinking. I just started sprinting toward campus as hard as I could. My backpack bouncing against my shoulders while the footsteps were rapidly gaining behind me. I didn't dare look for long, but every glance showed him getting closer. His arms barely moved as he ran, and somehow that made it worse. He made it look effortless, like he wasn't chasing me because he needed to, but because he already knew where I was going. The lights from the edge of the campus finally came into view, and I risked another look behind me. Of course, just like in the horror movies, that's when my foot caught the uneven edge of the sidewalk and I slammed onto the concrete hard enough to knock the wind out of myself. My backpack slid away, my palms burned, and for one horrible second I couldn't breathe. I heard footsteps stop inches from my head, and all I could see at first were a pair of small, dirty sneakers planted beside my face. My heart was pounding, and I forced myself to look up. The kid couldn't have been more than 12. His face was pale but otherwise ordinary, except for his eyes. There were no whites or irises, no pupils. His eyes were completely black, as though someone had filled the sockets with wet ink. He slowly knelt beside me, smiling with this weird expression that wasn't cruel or angry. If anything, it looked weirdly patient. In a calm voice that sounded much older than he looked, he said, "The eye that mocketh at his father and despiseth to obey his mother, the ravens of the valley shall pick it out, and all the young eagles shall eat it." He stared at me for another second or two, then stood up, turned around, and ran off into the darkness. I laid there until I couldn't hear him anymore. I grabbed my backpack, stumbled to my feet, and ran the rest of the way to my dorm without slowing up once. I locked my door, turned on every light in the room, found my charger, and waited just long enough for my phone to power back on. The first thing I did was call my mom. Before she could even start talking, I apologized for the way I'd spoken to her, and I apologized for probably waking her up. It was late by now. Then I told her every detail of what had just happened. She listened quietly before saying she wasn't sure what I'd seen exactly, but she recognized the words immediately. She told me they came from the Bible. My mom's a Bible thumper. Proverbs 30:17, she said specifically, and then read the verse back to me from the family Bible while I just sat there shaking on the edge of my bed. I never saw that kid again, and I still don't know whether he was a real person who somehow knew exactly what to say to me, or whether maybe I crossed paths with something far more sinister that night. Hey gang, thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a true scary story of any nature that you'd like me to narrate, email it to unclejosh.truescarystories@gmail.com. I read them all. If you're catching this on YouTube and you like what you heard and saw, why not give the video a thumbs up, share it with a friend, leave a comment. I'd love to know what you thought of the stories. It's all free and it all helps out with the algorithms, so I appreciate it. Follow me on social media, and if you'd like to take your support a step further, find a link to my Patreon page in the description, and consider getting some Uncle Josh and Campfire Crew merchandise. A link to my TeePublic storefront is also in the description. Everyone, be excellent to each other, and until next time, be wary of things that go bump in the night. It could be anything: a ghost, a monster, or the guy next door.